Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned veteran, there's always new things you can learn. Not a single person knows everything about ServiceNow. A lot of great information is out there, but commonly it's scattered all over and you must hunt to find it. With that said, I've gone out into the wilderness and gathered nuggets of knowledge that I'd like to share in hopes that it'll help you on your own ServiceNow journey. Client scripts are a great tool to use when working with client-based events. These events occur within the web browser and can execute when a form loads, changes, is saved, or, depending on your settings, can execute within a list view of records. But did you know that there's leading practices that have been identified when working with client scripts? Join me on this epic adventure as we explore the ServiceNow platform. Hi, I'm Alan Andreas and welcome to Alan Ovation. I'd like to introduce you to a new ongoing series here on the channel titled ServiceNow Adventures with Alan. This series will be focused on guiding you through several leading practices related to various areas within the ServiceNow platform. In this episode, I'm going to focus on a few leading practices regarding client scripts. As I mentioned earlier, client scripts are a great tool to use, and for individuals brand new to the platform, they're one of the first features you'll most likely encounter as a system administrator or developer. Coincidentally, they're also one of the first things that people may accidentally use in a way that can lead to performance issues such as long form load times. There are also scenarios where there may be a better tool to use instead of a client script anyway. And that brings us to our first nugget of knowledge for client scripts, which is to consider utilizing a UI policy instead of using a client script whenever possible. It's far easier to use a UI policy and the condition builder along with UI policy actions to accomplish tasks such as hiding or showing a field, setting a field mandatory or read-only, or even when you need to hide or show a related list. That last one is a feature even some veterans aren't aware of. UI policies should be used as they are the no-code option and are quick and easy to both understand and set up. To accomplish the same thing in a client script, you'd have to use scripting, which we'd only want to use as a last resort. The old adage, just because you can doesn't mean you should, applies here. The next nugget of knowledge is to avoid conducting server queries, like using GlideRecord, in client-side scripts. While technically you can do it, it's not recommended as it can lead to performance issues. Working within the client is separate from working with the server. If you need to retrieve information from the server, which is a common requirement, you'd want to evaluate the need for that type of data and determine if it's only needed sometimes based on certain changes or outcomes within the form. And if so, you'd want to use GlideAjax. GlideAjax allows the execution of server-side code from the client. Within a GlideAjax call, you'd pass parameters as needed to a client callable script include. That script include then works with the server to get the information, which then brings it back to the client. Here's a bonus tip. Let's say you have a requirement where you need to automatically fill in a few other catalog variable fields with information that's related to another variable selection. For example, if I select a user, I want to automatically fill in the user's first name and title in two other variables. Now this sounds like you'd need to code something complex in a client script or use GlideAjax to accomplish this, right? Wrong. You can actually use a catalog lookup definition to quickly handle this requirement. Simply select the matcher table where the data resides that you're trying to look up. Then, create a matcher variable definition specifying the source variable field name and how you're going to match it. In this case, it's by a sysid. Then, create setter variable definitions for however many variables you want to automatically fill in with the matched table field data. Now, your finished product is a no-code solution that was very easy to set up. Another nugget of knowledge when working with client scripts is to avoid DOM manipulation. DOM stands for Document Object Model, and as defined per Mozilla.org, is a data representative of the objects that comprise the structure and content of a document on the web. One way of thinking is that it's manipulation of the client's browser. For example, manipulating the DOM to hide a button on the form via script by referring to its name or element ID, instead of using the out-of-box condition field to control when the button is shown or not. Manipulating the DOM is never recommended, as the DOM can change, like that button name or ID. And so the moment that information is changed, your script is broken and doesn't work properly. It's extremely rare to need to manipulate the DOM, and you should exhaust all other methods for your requirement before resorting to DOM manipulation. Our last nugget of knowledge for this episode is to suggest that you avoid creating a client script on the global table. Now, I'm not referring to the global checkbox on the client script form, as that's related to form views, and I'm not talking about the global application scope either. I'm specifically talking about choosing the global table as a selection for the table field within the client script settings. If the global table is selected, then the client script will execute per the type field settings for every page within the platform, since there's no table restriction applied. As you can imagine, this can cause significant performance issues. Let's review the nuggets of knowledge uncovered by our adventure of the ServiceNow platform regarding client scripts. Consider utilizing a UI policy instead of using a client script whenever possible. Avoid conducting server queries like using Glide record in client-side scripts, and think about using GlideAjax instead. A bonus tip was shared related to using the catalog lookup definition when you want to automatically fill in other variables with information related to a specific variable selection. Avoid DOM manipulation. And lastly, avoid creating a client script on the global table. Now that list is not all-inclusive, and there are plenty more leading practices related to client scripts out there, but we'd be here for quite some time going over them all. I encourage you to conduct further research and go on an adventure of your own to learn more. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you've learned something. If you enjoy ServiceNow content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and like this video. Once again, my name is Alan Andreas, host of Alan Ovation, and I'll see you on the next adventure.